Tom was a human student who had traveled far from Earth to join an interstellar exchange program. He was young, curious, and always ready for adventure. When he was first told he would be placed with an alien roommate, he thought it would be exciting. He imagined late-night talks, learning new customs, and maybe even becoming best friends. Reality, however, was far more complicated. His roommate's name was Rin. Rin was tall, strong, and had skin with a faint silver shine that reflected the dorm lights. His eyes glowed faint blue when he was annoyed, which Tom often saw because Rin was easily bothered by Tom's habits. Tom liked leaving his books scattered across the desk, and sometimes his laundry piled near the bed. Rin, on the other hand, was neat and strict. Every item on his side of the room was arranged carefully, from the folded sheets to the polished tools he kept for study. They spoke politely most of the time. But the room was full of tension. Rin disliked mess. Tom disliked silence. They shared meals but rarely shared stories. Still, both tried to be civil because the program demanded cooperation between humans and aliens. One evening, Tom was reading on his tablet when a sharp siren cut through the dormitory. A red light flashed across the walls. At first he thought it was a fire alarm. He jumped up, but Rin's expression changed instantly. His glowing eyes dimmed, and his posture stiffened like a soldier ready for orders. "That is not fire," Rin said with a heavy tone. Tom frowned. "Then what is it?" Before Rin could answer, the dorm's announcement system activated. A calm but firm voice spoke in the common interstellar language so that all species could understand. "Attention all residents. Due to seasonal biological changes among the native population, the campus and city are now under emergency lockdown. Humans are instructed to remain indoors. All movement outside dormitories is forbidden until the lockdown ends. This measure is for your safety." Tom froze. "Lockdown? For how long?" The voice continued. "The cycle is unpredictable. Estimated time, 3 to 6 weeks. Remain calm. Supplies will be monitored. Cooperation is expected." Then the siren ended, leaving the room silent except for Tom's quick breathing. Rin finally looked at him. His voice was steady, but his eyes showed something sharp. "It has started. The season is here." Tom blinked. "What season? What's happening?" Rin did not answer right away. Instead, he walked to the door, pressed his hand on the scanner, and made sure it was locked. Then he turned back to Tom. "Our kind enters a cycle once every few years. It changes how we act. We become protective, restless, and different. The leaders restrict movement to prevent chaos. Humans do not experience this, so they tell you to stay inside. You are safer that way." Tom tried to laugh it off, but his voice cracked. "So you're saying I'm trapped in this room with you for weeks?" Rin crossed his arms. "Yes, trapped with me. Trapped with everyone. The whole campus is locked down." Tom groaned and dropped onto his bed. He could not believe it. He had signed up for learning and adventure, not a prison. He imagined being stuck with Rin, the roommate who scolded him for socks on the floor. Now they had no choice but to share the same air, the same meals, the same silence for weeks. The first night was heavy. The outside city echoed with strange sounds. Sometimes Tom heard roars in the distance, sometimes metal clashing as if fights broke out. Rin sat by the door most of the night, his back straight, eyes glowing faint blue in the dark. Tom tried to sleep but could not. He whispered, "Are you going to sit there all night?" "Yes," Rin replied without turning. "Why?" "To protect the room. To protect you." Tom swallowed hard. He was not sure if he should feel safe or more nervous. The thought of being trapped with an alien who acted like a guard was unsettling. Yet, when a loud crash sounded outside, Tom saw Rin tense like a shield, ready to block danger. Maybe he was serious. The next morning, the lockdown rules became clearer. A message was sent to every device. Food delivery would arrive once every 5 days. Power and water would be stable for now, but students were warned not to waste them. No outdoor activities were allowed. Windows had to remain closed. Tom stared at the list and sighed. No fresh air, No walking outside? No escape? Great. Just great. Rin glanced at him. You will adapt. Humans adapt quickly. That is why your species survives in strange places. Tom looked up. You sound like you've studied us. I have. My people respect your kind, even if we do not understand all your ways. That was one of the longest answers Rin had given since they became roommates. Tom felt a spark of curiosity. And what about you? How does this season affect you? Rin hesitated. His hands tightened slightly. It makes us restless. It pulls us to guard what is close. It is not easy to fight the instinct. But I will control it. Tom raised an eyebrow. And I'm supposed to trust that? You should, Rin said firmly. His glowing eyes locked on Tom's. If I lose control, it is dangerous for both of us. But I will not fail. Oh. The weight of those words stayed with Tom. He had never thought of Rin as anything more than a strict roommate. But now he realized Rin was struggling with something deep and powerful, something Tom could barely imagine. Days passed slowly. The walls of the room felt tighter each morning. Tom tried to keep himself busy with reading, writing, and watching old Earth movies on his tablet. Sometimes he offered Rin to join, but Rin usually refused. Instead, Rin spent hours sharpening tools, organizing shelves, or sitting in silence like a statue. At first, Tom thought it was unbearable, but he started noticing small details. Rin always positioned himself near the door at night, as if making sure nothing could come in. When strange noises echoed from the corridor, Rin's hand immediately reached for a metal staff he kept hidden under his bed. And when food was delivered, Rin always checked it first before letting Tom touch it. It was both annoying and oddly comforting. One evening, Tom finally spoke what was on his mind. You're serious about protecting me, aren't you? Rin's glowing eyes softened. It is my instinct, but also my choice. You are under my care as long as we share this space. Tom leaned back, staring at the ceiling. Maybe being trapped here won't be the worst thing, as long as we don't drive each other crazy. Rin tilted his head. Then you must stop leaving your laundry near my desk. Tom laughed for the first time since the lockdown began. The tension broke slightly. Still, deep inside, he knew the coming weeks would not be easy. The lockdown had only just begun, and the noises outside were growing louder. He could feel it in his chest. Something dangerous was unfolding beyond the walls, and he was trapped with his alien roommate. With no escape. The first 5 days of lockdown felt endless for Tom. At first, he tried to treat it like a small vacation. He slept late, watched Earth movies on his tablet, and played simple games to pass the hours. But by the third day, the silence outside began to feel heavy. And the strange noises that echoed through the dorm walls were no longer just background sounds. Sometimes he heard deep growls, like wild animals roaming. Other times there were sharp clashing noises, as if metal struck metal. Once, in the middle of the night, he heard a chilling scream that made his skin crawl. He pulled the blanket over his head, but even then, felt the sounds sink into his bones. Through all of this, Rin became more restless. The calm and neat roommate who once kept everything in order now seemed tense every hour of the day. He still tried to keep the room organized, but his movements were sharper. When Tom left a cup on the desk, Rin grabbed it almost immediately and placed it on the shelf, his silver fingers tapping the surface like he was fighting the urge to break it. Relax, Tom said once, watching Rin pace across the small room. It's just a cup. Rin's glowing blue eyes flickered brighter than usual. You do not understand. Everything must be safe. Everything must be in order. If not, danger comes inside. Tom frowned. Danger is outside, not in here. You're making it worse by acting like this. Rin stopped, but his chest rose and fell with a force Tom had not seen before. It was like Rin was holding something back. After a long pause, he turned away and sat on his bed. You do not know what this season does to us. It changes the way we think. It pulls at our instincts until even small things feel like threats. Tom sat quietly. For the first time, he realized how serious it was. Rin was not just being dramatic. His alien nature was struggling against something deep inside, something Tom could not fully understand. Later that night, Tom woke up to the sound of footsteps inside the room. He blinked and saw Rin standing near the window, staring out into the dark campus. His body was tense, his glowing eyes focused on something outside. Tom rubbed his face and whispered, "What do you see?" Rin spoke in a low voice. "Two of my kind. They fight in the courtyard. Their instincts push them to claim space. It will continue until one gives up." Tom slowly walked closer, careful not to startle him. He peered through the glass but could barely see shapes moving. He could hear them, though the heavy thud of bodies striking and the harsh sound of growling. "Shouldn't someone stop them?" Tom asked nervously. "No," Rin said firmly. "This is what happens during the season. The leaders allow it within limits. It is nature for us. But you must never step outside. If they see you, their instincts will not understand what you are. You will become a target." Tom backed away quickly. "Good to know. I'll stay inside." From that night onward, Tom began to notice more changes in Rin. His protective instincts grew stronger. Whenever Tom went near the door, even just to stretch his legs, Rin immediately blocked him. His tall frame stood like a wall, his glowing eyes narrowed. "Where are you going?" Rin asked each time. "Nowhere," Tom answered with frustration. "Just standing. You do not leave this room." It was not a request. It was a command. At first, Tom argued, but Rin's voice grew sharper. Tom decided it was safer not to push him. Instead, Tom tried to distract both of them. One afternoon, he played music from his tablet. Old songs from Earth filled the small room. Tom tapped his fingers on the bed, humming along. To his surprise, Rin stopped pacing and turned his head. His glowing eyes dimmed slightly as he listened. "That sound? It is strange, but calming. It's music," Tom explained. "Humans make it to feel better, to tell stories, to keep busy." Rin tilted his head. "It keeps you calm?" "Yeah. Want to try listening with me?" Rin hesitated, but finally sat on the floor across from Tom. The two sat in silence as the songs played. Tom noticed how Rin's tense shoulders slowly lowered, his breathing steadied, and his glowing eyes softened. For the first time in days, the room felt less heavy. That small moment gave Tom an idea. Each day he tried something new to ease Rin's tension. Sometimes he told jokes. Sometimes he explained silly Earth traditions, like why humans gave flowers or why they played games with cards. Rin rarely laughed, but he listened. The sharp edge in his voice faded during those moments. Still, the season had its grip on him. One evening, Tom spilled water by accident. The cup slipped from his hand and splashed across the floor. Rin jumped to his feet so fast that Tom's heart nearly stopped. "You must be careful," Rin said, his voice shaking. "Spilled water can make us slip. A slip can make us fall. Falling means weakness. Weakness invites attack." Tom raised his hands. Okay. I'll clean it up." "Calm down." He grabbed a towel and wiped the floor quickly. Rin watched every motion, his glowing eyes burning. When Tom finished, Rin finally sat down, but his hands still trembled. Tom realized then how deep the instinct ran. For Rin, nothing was small. Everything was a threat, if not controlled. And somehow, Tom was caught in the middle of it. That night, Tom could not sleep. He stared at the ceiling, listening to the faint noises outside. He thought about Earth, about how humans also had seasons of chaos, wars, disasters, storms. But humans had survived them all, not by being stronger, but by being clever and stubborn. He wondered if that same stubbornness could help him survive being locked in with Rin. The next day, he decided to test something. When Rin began pacing again, Tom stood in his way. "Sit down," Tom said firmly. Rin blinked. "Why?" "Because you're making yourself worse. You keep moving like the floor is on fire. Just sit and breathe." For a moment, Tom thought Rin would push him aside. His glowing eyes flared, and his chest rose like a storm was building inside him. But then, slowly, Rin lowered himself to the floor. Tom sat across from him. "Now breathe. In and out. Like this." he demonstrated, breathing deeply. Rin watched, then copied. His breaths were sharp at first, but gradually steadied. "Better?" Tom asked. Rin nodded slightly. "Strange, but better." Tom smiled. "That's called meditation. Humans use it when we're stressed." That evening, when the noises outside grew loud again, Rin did not stand guard at the door. Instead, he sat cross-legged, breathing slowly. Tom sat beside him. For the first time, the fear outside did not crush them completely, but the season was far from over. As the days stretched, Tom noticed that Rin was becoming more protective of him personally, not just the room. When Tom moved too close to the window, Rin pulled him back. When Tom carried food, Rin insisted on holding it first. Even when Tom tried to nap, Rin often sat nearby, as if guarding him from invisible threats. At first, it annoyed Tom. But one night, as the sounds of another alien fight echoed through the building, Tom realized something important. While other humans in different dorms were terrified, he was safe because Rin refused to let harm reach him. It was not easy. It was not comfortable. But deep inside, Tom began to trust that his alien roommate would not let anything happen to him. The lockdown was changing both of them, and neither knew how much further it would go. The lockdown had been in place for nearly 2 weeks. Tom had adjusted to the small routines of the dorm, but the strange noises outside had only grown louder. Every evening, he could hear the echoes of alien disputes in the campus courtyards. Sometimes it was the pounding of feet, sometimes the clash of sharp claws or metal-like tools. Occasionally, he caught the low growl of creatures larger than he could imagine. Through it all, Rin remained vigilant. But now, Tom began to notice something else. Rin's protective instinct was no longer limited to the room. It extended toward Tom in ways that made him uneasy but also strangely reassured. Whenever Tom moved near the door, Rin's hand hovered over a staff tucked under his bed. When Tom reached for a cup of water, Rin often grabbed it first, inspecting it with sharp eyes. Even when Tom tried to take a short nap, Rin sat near him. Watching and listening to the faint sounds beyond the walls, Tom found it difficult to sleep without. Noticing Rin's protective presence, at first he felt trapped, but over time, he began to understand that this strange vigilance was a form of care. One evening, a loud crash echoed through the corridor, shaking the dorm walls. Tom sat up instantly, heart racing. "What now?" he whispered. Rin was already standing, his glowing blue eyes piercing the darkness outside the small window. His posture was stiff, alert, and tense. "It is outside the building," he said calmly but firmly. "Something approaches. Stay low." Tom's pulse quickened. He had never felt so vulnerable. He realized that despite all the protective measures, the world outside the room was dangerous. He wanted to argue, to run, but something in Rin's presence made him pause. Rin grabbed his staff and gestured for Tom to follow him, toward the small alcove under the window, away from direct sight. Tom obeyed, even though he did not know why. Together, they crouched, listening. From outside came the sounds of heavy footsteps, low growls, and metallic strikes. It was the clash of two alien groups, each driven by instincts Tom could barely understand. Rin's eyes glowed brighter. "If they notice your presence, they will see you as a threat. You will be in danger." Tom swallowed. "I will stay hidden. I promise." Rin did not speak again. He only watched, alert to the faintest movement. For the next several hours, the two sat together in tense silence. Tom noticed small details he had never seen before. Rin's breathing, although steady, carried a subtle rhythm that seemed designed to calm himself. His hands gripped the staff, yet he relaxed them slightly when he caught Tom's gaze. There was a balance between instinct and self-control that Tom admired but could not replicate. After the sounds outside faded, Tom finally spoke. That was close," Rin nodded. "It is always close during this season. My kind fights, claims, and defends. You do not understand the strength of instinct." "I think I'm starting to," Tom admitted. "It's scary, but I also feel safe with you." Rin's glowing eyes softened. "That is my responsibility. You are under my care." Tom nodded, a mixture of relief and appreciation flooding him. He realized that he had been wrong to see Rin as only strict or overbearing. His alien roommate was struggling with his instincts, yet he chose to protect Tom despite the danger. That choice built a bridge between them, one that went beyond the small conflicts over laundry or food. The next day, Tom attempted something bold. He wanted to help Rin manage the stress of the season. He pulled out a small mat from his side of the room and sat cross-legged. "Try this with me," he said. "Humans call it meditation. It helps calm the mind." Rin tilted his head. "You want me to sit here and do nothing while danger could come?" "Yes," Tom said firmly. "Do nothing for 10 minutes. Just breathe. If it works, you might feel better." Rin hesitated, but eventually mirrored Tom, sitting cross-legged on the floor. His glowing eyes watched Tom's movements closely as he demonstrated slow, steady breathing. In and out, Tom inhaled deeply and exhaled fully. Rin's breaths were short and sharp at first, but gradually they lengthened, mirroring Tom's rhythm. For the first time in days, Rin relaxed slightly. His shoulders dropped, his staff rested across his knees instead of being clutched tightly, and the sharp edge in his voice softened. "This is strange," Rin said finally, "but it does ease the tension." Tom smiled. "See, humans have tricks like this. You don't have to fight your instincts all the time. You can manage them." Rin nodded slowly, a small sign of trust. Perhaps this method has merit. As the day progressed, Tom noticed more subtle changes. Rin still paced occasionally, still reacted sharply to noises. But he allowed small distractions, even laughter, to enter the room. Tom shared stories of Earth, jokes about human habits, and even silly games that required both of them to cooperate. Rin did not participate often, but he listened carefully. And sometimes a small smile appeared on his silver-tinged face. One evening, a particularly loud fight broke out in the courtyard. Tom jumped, startled by the sounds of metal striking metal. Rin immediately moved in front of him, holding the staff at the ready. "Stay close," Rin instructed. Tom realized that this was no longer about control or rules. Rin was protecting him because he chose to. The instinct was strong, but the choice to prioritize Tom's safety was stronger. Tom felt a deep gratitude he had never expected. After the fight outside ended, they both sat quietly in the room. Tom turned to Rin. "You know, you could have left me behind. You didn't have to stay so close." Rin shook his head. "That is not acceptable. If you were harmed because I did nothing, it would not matter that it was instinct. I have responsibility. I have control. You are safe because I choose it." Tom nodded, understanding the weight of those words. Trust was forming between them, slowly but firmly. He realized that the bond they shared was not just about the lockdown or the season. It was about mutual understanding, cooperation, respect. Over the next several days, Tom and Rin developed small routines to manage the stress. They meditated together, shared meals, and even played simple games that required strategy and teamwork. Sometimes Tom taught Rin human ways to manage stress, and sometimes Rin demonstrated alien exercises that strengthened both body and mind. The lockdown still felt suffocating, but the room no longer seemed like a prison. It became a place of learning, understanding, and cautious friendship. Tom discovered that while Rin's instincts could be sharp and demanding, also reflected care, awareness, and loyalty, qualities Tom admired deeply. One night, a loud thud shook the dormitory. Tom froze, but Rin stood immediately, glowing eyes alert. He motioned for Tom to stay low. They crouched together as a shadow moved past the door. Rin whispered, "Arrival approaches. They will test boundaries. Do not move." He stayed still, watching as Rin's body tensed like a coiled spring. The shadow passed without incident, and Rin exhaled slowly, lowering his staff. "You are safe," he said quietly. Tom realized that the presence of danger outside made the trust between them stronger inside. Each challenge, each threat, each instinct-driven response from Rin taught him something new about alien behavior, survival, and the importance of calm reasoning. By the end of the week, Tom felt a sense of confidence he had not expected. He could face the sounds outside, the chaos of instincts, the tension of being trapped with an alien roommate because he knew Rin would protect him. And more importantly, he had begun to understand Rin, not just as a roommate, but as a partner in survival. Though the season was far from over, and the lockdown still held them in confinement, Tom felt hope. He knew that if he could adapt, learn, and trust, the coming weeks would not just be a trial. They would be an opportunity to survive, to grow, and perhaps to build a bond that neither of them had anticipated when they first met. For the first time, Tom realized that being trapped with Rin was not simply a challenge. It was a chance to see the best qualities of both species, human cleverness, and alien. Loyalty working together in a world that demanded understanding, courage, and trust. And in that small, locked dorm room, the first threads of an unshakable bond began to take shape. The lockdown had stretched into its third week. The small dorm room that once felt confining had now become both a sanctuary and a training ground for survival. Tom had adapted to the routine of living with Rin, but the challenges of the outside world were growing more intense. Each day, the distant sounds of the alien season growls, clashes, and thuds echoed through the walls, reminding them that danger lurked just beyond the locked doors. One morning, a new alert flashed across their tablets. Attention residents. Some sectors of the campus have reported minor structural damage due to external conflicts. Residents are advised to remain indoors and prepare for emergency measures if necessary. Tom groaned. Minor damage? That sounds like chaos. Rin stood by the window, his glowing blue eyes scanning the quiet courtyard. It is worse than they describe. The fights outside test strength, strategy, and endurance. Any weak point in a building could become a hazard. We must prepare. Tom looked around the room. Prepare? How? We're stuck in here. Rin's jaw tightened. Preparation is not just movement. It is awareness, readiness, and coordination. You will help. At first, Tom did not understand what Rin meant. But when the first tremors shook the dormitory later that day, he realized the seriousness. A large section of the outer wall shuddered from a distant fight. Small cracks appeared in nearby corridors, and dust filled the air. Students screamed in other rooms. Some humans tried to leave their dorms only to be pulled back by strict security measures. Rin grabbed Tom's arm. Stay calm. Move to the inner alcove. We need to assess the room and secure the supplies. Tom nodded and followed, adrenaline rushing through his veins. Together, they moved methodically. Rin checked the doors, making sure locks were secure, while Tom gathered food packs, water containers, and first aid kits. You do not panic well, Rin said, glancing at him. But you do act quickly when guided. That is useful. Tom gave a nervous smile. Thanks, I think. The tremors continued throughout the day. Dust and small debris fell from the ceiling. Tom realized that being trapped with Rin was no longer just about managing a roommate. They were learning to survive as a team, relying on each other to stay safe. As evening approached, a loud crash shook the room more violently than before. The wall near their window cracked slightly, sending small stones onto the floor. Tom froze, heart racing. Rin immediately positioned himself between the danger and Tom. Do not move. Stay low, he instructed. His staff was ready, eyes glowing bright, body tense. What do we do now? Tom whispered. We assess, Rin replied. We do not panic. First, check the room for any falling hazards. Then prepare a path to safer ground if needed. Tom began moving carefully, following Rin's instructions. Together, they inspected the corners, ensured that nothing heavy could fall, and moved fragile supplies away from the cracked wall. For the first time, Tom realized the depth of Rin's instincts. The alien was not only protecting himself or the room, he was ensuring that Tom could survive with him. Hours passed, and the tremors subsided slightly. Rin finally lowered his staff and sat on the floor. The building is stable for now, he said. Tom slumped beside him, exhausted. I never thought being trapped would involve actual survival skills. Rin's glowing eyes softened. Adaptation is essential. We survive by learning quickly and acting decisively. Panic is our enemy. Tom nodded, thinking about the lessons he had already learned. Trust, patience, and cooperation were more important than fear. He realized that Rin's insistence on control, protection, and awareness had saved them multiple times. The next day, supplies arrived. Delivery drones hovered outside, dropping packages into secured corridors. Tom and Rin worked together to retrieve them, Rin ensuring no harm came to them from potential external threats. As they unpacked the food and water, Tom asked, "Rin, why are you so committed to keeping me safe?" "You don't have to do this," Rin paused, considering his words. "Because you are in this space with me. My instincts demand caution, but my choice is to protect. You are part of this shared environment. You are not weak. You are human. Humans survive by thinking, by adapting. That makes you valuable to me." Tom felt a surge of gratitude and understanding. He had never imagined that living with an alien could be such a lesson in trust, teamwork, and mutual respect. That evening, tremors began again. They were smaller this time, but the sounds outside suggested that other dorms were not faring as well. Students screamed in panic. Tom and Rin moved quickly to secure their room. Rin instructed Tom to carry water while he moved heavy supplies to safer corners. Together, they created a small, safe zone in the center of the room. After the immediate danger passed, Tom looked around. "We make a good team," he said, wiping sweat from his forehead. Rin's glowing eyes softened. "Yes, we learn from each other. You follow instructions, and I protect. Together, we survive." Tom nodded. The phrase resonated in his mind. Survival was no longer just about avoiding danger. It was about teamwork, trust, and understanding. Over the next few days, they developed a routine. In the mornings, they checked the room and supplies, ensuring that everything was secure. In the afternoons, they practiced calm exercises, breathing techniques, and even shared simple games that strengthened coordination and focus. By night, they listened for external threats, maintaining vigilance while avoiding panic. One evening, as they sat together eating a small meal, Tom asked, "Do you ever get lonely during this season? When the instincts control everything?" Rin's glowing eyes dimmed slightly, reflecting thought. "Yes, the instinct drives isolation. We become focused on survival and dominance. But when we cooperate, when someone earns our trust, the season becomes manageable. You are my focus. I choose to include you in my awareness." Tom smiled faintly. "I never thought I'd be included in an alien's awareness." Rin's expression softened. "You are not included by chance. You are included because you survive and learn. You adapt. You think, humans have strength we admire." Tom felt a warm pride. Despite the fear, the tremors, and the constant tension outside, he realized that he was part of something extraordinary. Not only was he surviving the alien season, he was also forming a bond that transcended species. Later that night, another disturbance shook the dormitory. This time, a section of the ceiling in a nearby corridor collapsed. Dust filled the air, and alarms blared across the campus. Tom panicked, but Rin grabbed his arm. "Stay calm. Follow me." They moved quickly but carefully through the small dorm, ensuring that no debris fell on them. Rin's instincts guided them to safer corners, and his calm voice directed Tom's movements. Together, they navigated the danger. When they finally settled back in their safe zone, Tom exhaled deeply. "You saved me again," he said. Rin shook his head slightly. "We save each other. Trust is a skill, and survival is a lesson. You learn it with me?" Tom realized that the lockdown, once terrifying and confining, had become an opportunity. The lessons were not only about surviving external danger, but about understanding each other, adapting to differences, and cooperating under pressure by the end of the week. Tom and Rin had become a seamless team. They could anticipate each other's actions, communicate silently with gestures, and manage the small crises that arose from tremors, falling debris, and distant fights. The alien season still loomed. and the city outside was far from calm. But inside the dorm room, they had created a small world of safety, understanding, and trust. The final night of Part 4 arrived with quiet tension. The tremors had subsided, and the loud clashes outside were distant but still audible. Tom sat cross-legged on the floor, sharing a small meal with Rin. For a brief moment, the room was calm, and they could rest. Tom looked at Rin. I understand the season now. It's not just instinct. It's survival, loyalty, and cooperation. And you've taught me all of it." Rin's glowing eyes softened. "And you have taught me that humans are adaptable, clever, and capable of trust. Together, we endure." Tom smiled. The bond between them had grown stronger than either had expected. The lockdown was still in effect. The season was still ongoing, but they were ready for whatever came next. Together, they were no longer trapped roommates. They were partners, survivors, and allies in a world that demanded courage, understanding, and unwavering trust. Tom stood at the broken doorway of the shelter. The air was quiet after the storm, but silence on this world was never a good sign. The ground still smoked where lightning had struck, and strange claw marks covered the walls. He tightened the straps of his pack. Inside it, he carried a few food bars, some wires, a broken tool he had repaired, and a small torch. It was not much, but it was all they had left. Rena stepped beside him. Her scales reflected the weak sunlight, glowing faintly green. She had tied her long hair back to keep it from her eyes. Her stance was calm, but Tom could see the effort it cost her. The season still pulled at her instincts, but she was stronger now, more focused. "We cannot stay here," she said. Her voice was firm. "The walls are weak, the air smells of predators, and the power is gone. We must reach the main outpost." Tom nodded. "Then we move together." They set out across the cracked plain. The storm had changed the land. Pools of glowing water filled the ground and steam rose in the distance. Small creatures scuttled between rocks, their eyes bright in the light. Some watched, some fled, and some followed at a distance. Tom gripped his makeshift spear. Walking was slow. The air was heavy, and the ground was uneven. Tom's legs ached, but he kept moving. Rena walked ahead, her senses sharper. She pointed out safe paths and warned him of hidden pits. At one point, a swarm of winged insects rose from the rocks, their buzzing loud in the still air. Rena used a loud hiss of her own to drive them back, while Tom covered his face with cloth. Hours passed. They rested in the shadow of a stone ridge. Tom shared water from his canteen. Rena took only a small sip, her eyes on the horizon. "Your kind is strange," she said. "The season makes us restless. It makes us weak to instinct. Yet you remain steady." Tom gave a small smile. "Humans feel fear too, but we learn to push through. If we let fear control us, we would not have survived back on Earth." Rena tilted her head. "Perhaps that is why you are spread across the stars. You bend, but you do not break." Their rest was cut short by a low growl. From behind the ridge, a beast emerged. Its body was long, with armored plates along its back, and its jaws dripped with glowing saliva. The creature's eyes locked onto them. Tom stood quickly, spear ready. "Run or fight?" He asked. "Fight," Rena said. Her claws extended, her body lowering into a stance. The beast charged. Tom thrust his spear, striking its side, but the weapon snapped under the weight. The beast swung its tail, sending Tom rolling across the ground. Rena leapt onto the beast's back, clawing at its armor. The creature roared and thrashed, trying to throw her off. Tom scrambled to his feet. He grabbed a stone and the broken tip of his spear. As the beast reared back, he jammed the sharp piece into the joint between its plates. The creature screeched in pain. Rena seized the chance, driving her claws into its exposed neck. With a final cry, the beast fell still. Breathing hard, Tom leaned against the ridge. Rena stepped away from the body, her chest rising and falling quickly. She looked at him with bright eyes, then gave a short nod. "You fight like one of us," she said. Tom chuckled weakly. Or maybe you fight like a human. It did not linger near the corpse. More predators would come soon. They pushed on, their steps quicker now. The land slowly shifted from cracked plains to rocky hills. The sky darkened as another wave of clouds gathered, though no storm followed. In the distance, faint lights flickered, the first sign of the main outpost. But the way there was not safe. The hills were crawling with restless creatures, all stirred by the season. Tom and Rena moved carefully, avoiding groups of predators. Twice they had to hide behind rocks as packs of horned beasts passed. Tom's heart pounded, but he kept still. By nightfall, they reached the edge of a canyon. Across it, the lights of the outpost shone brighter. The bridge that once spanned the gap was gone, swept away by the storm. The canyon dropped into darkness below, with sharp rocks waiting. Tom stared at the distance. "We can't jump that." Rena studied the sides. "The stone is loose, but there are handholds. We climb down, cross, then climb up again." Tom looked at the steep wall and felt his stomach tighten. But there was no choice. They began the descent. Rena moved with ease, her claws gripping the stone. Tom was slower, his hands slipping on loose rocks. Several times he almost fell, but Rena reached back to steady him. The climb down was long, and when they reached the bottom, the air was damp and cold. Strange glowing vines clung to the rocks, lighting the way faintly. Crossing the canyon floor, they heard movement. Out of the shadows came tall shapes, six-legged and covered in spines. The creatures moved as one, their eyes fixed on the two travelers. Rena whispered, "They are hunters. They do not stop." Tom's mind raced. Running was hopeless. Fighting all of them would mean death. Then he noticed the glowing vines. They pulsed when touched, releasing sparks. "Rena, help me," he said quickly. He grabbed the vines, pulling them loose and wrapping them around a stone. Sparks danced along the surface. Rena understood. Together they gathered more, creating makeshift torches. When the hunters charged, Tom and Rena lit the vines. Sparks burst in the air, bright and crackling. The creatures shrieked, recoiling from the light. Tom swung his torch wide, driving them back. Rena hissed fiercely, her own torch sparking bright. The hunters backed away, then vanished into the dark. Shaking, Tom laughed softly. Sometimes fire is enough. They climbed the far wall, slower than before but with new strength. At last, they reached the top. The outpost was close now. They could see figures moving near the gates. By dawn, they reached the outer wall. Guards shouted and hurried to meet them. The heavy gates opened and Tom and Rena staggered inside. The survivors inside looked worn, but alive. The commander of the outpost, a tall woman with a scar on her cheek, stepped forward. "You made it," she said. "We feared the storm had taken you both." Rena bowed her head. "We survived because of him," she said, pointing at Tom. "When instinct pulled at me, he remained steady. When beasts attacked, he stood with me. Without him, I would not be here." Tom felt his face grow warm. He shook his head. "We survived because we worked together." The commander studied him for a moment, then gave a nod of respect. "Humans do surprise us. You bend, but you do not break." The survivors welcomed them, giving food and rest. For the first time in days, Tom felt safe. He sat beside Rena, watching the rising sun. The storm was gone, and the season would pass. He thought of Earth, of the long history of humans facing hardship. Now, on this strange world, he had seen the same truth again. No matter the storm, no matter the season, humans endured. And in that endurance, others found hope.